Alright, so what we are going to be doing is I'm going to be giving you a starter file, and you can use it as a way to kind of figure out the dimensions of your stuff. So this is like where my game is currently at. And eventually you'll be creating assets that will go into this, but I want you to see how simple some of these things can be. So something like this stop sign, which looks like amazing, is actually done within a relatively short amount of time because it's just done with a few pieces and the rest is all texturing. And then the same thing with this lamppost here, really simple. It even has a light up top, glows, illuminates, shadows, everything. Oops, where are my traffic cones? Hey there, I ran past them. Here are some traffic cones down here, same thing. These are all just simple things. I made them interactive so that I could actually move them around. Yeah. Oops, really light and airy, but you'll see those later. I also have a billboard like way over here. Again, nothing that was crazy complex in how it was created. Most of the stuff was done just in the texture, and the rest of it is just the game. And then here's my trash can. Okay, so let's look at the process of this. So this is the file that I'm going to be putting up on canvas so that you can get to it. It just has the entire street there. It has some curbs in it, and it even has this guy right here. Okay, and you could bring this whole thing into Unreal, and you could use it for dropping stuff in there if you want to see how it's going to look. But then here is where I've created a lot of my items, and you'll see all my items I create. I build them right here at the origin. Okay, I may duplicate them, move them over there. How big is this going to be next to the guy? So maybe I'll duplicate it and group it and just set it next to him. Oops, not floating in the air, but next to him. Say, does that look like an appropriate size for a trash can? Yes, no, maybe so. And then I can tweak it from there. Okay. And then I also have a street light. And look at how simple the modeling portion of this is. It's just simply just a cube, and I've just added some shapes to it just for, here's the light, here's this little bar that goes inside it, here's another bar here for this piece, and like we talked about, it's all about having few divisions in it, as few as possible. There's another cylinder. I've deleted stuff that you're not going to see, so you don't see the bottom of this, so I deleted those faces, I deleted these faces. I do have some divisions going up this though, and those were for, oops, right here, right there, and there. That was so I could break the UVs apart, because the UVs for a long skinny pole would basically eat up the entire space, or just shrink everything to the size. So my UV editor, I added those divisions just so I would have enough room for all the other stuff. Okay, now for each one of my items, they all fit in one quadrant. Okay, so this item, all the pieces fit in this one quadrant. So you want to make sure that that happens also. And you can see here, if I grab this pole, all of these were pieces of the pole. So this would have been really tall, and all my UVs would have not matched very good if it was like that. Okay, and then here's my billboard. I mean, it looks huge, but it's nothing incredible. It's like, this is a cube, and I just extruded the inside of it, so if I just isolate this, you can see. Okay, that's all that is. And then same thing here, this is a cube, and I just deleted the sides of the cube. And then for the lights, these are just cylinders where I low-resed it and deleted the face. And then this was a cube that I just extruded to get this shape, and then I just duplicated that whole set. And the rest of it is done with texture. Here's my traffic cone. This started off as a cylinder, and this is the higher res one. I have a lower res one that I brought into Substance to paint with, and the high res one was just so that I could have the, there's the low res, just so I could have the mapping stuff. Okay, and again, there's no bottom face because it didn't really need it, and it's just a cylinder, and I just kind of shaped this part into a square, and there's my traffic cone. And then here's my stop sign. My stop sign is actually probably the most complex of all the shapes that I did. This is obviously just a cylinder that is 8 sides, and then this part here is probably the most complex that I did. But the way that I did this was I modeled basically just one portion. So if I were to take this and duplicate the faces, I'll center pivot this just so you can see how I did this. Okay, and then I'll delete this extra stuff here. I'm just deleting these extra faces. Whoops. Oh, I guess that's still connected inside here too. Delete that. There we go. Okay. So I started off with a cube, or a plane. I started off with a plane, and then I modeled this face. Okay, so let me show you how you model a face like that. So I start a plane. Now I could have also done this inside of Unreal, or inside of Substance is texture holes, just like transparency maps. So if I set this to 4 and 4, there we go. I get this nice pattern, okay? And if I were to just take every corner hole like this, or corner vertice, and I just scale it in, there's a circle. And then I just delete that. And that's how I got that. And then it's just a matter from here. I took those edges and I extruded them and pulled them this way, and I extruded them again, pulled them that way, and I got the shape. I think I had a little bit more right there, maybe. No, I don't think so. Oops. There we go. Okay, and then I could take this and then I could just duplicate it. Scoot it over here so I can get away from the other one. And duplicate it. Now, as I duplicate this, I want to make sure the pivot's in the right spot. So let's say I'm going to start from the bottom and go up. So I'm going to move this down to the bottom. Okay, so there's my bottom one. I'm going to put the pivot D and V, grab the centerpiece, and just snap it down here. So now when I duplicate it and hold V, I just drag this up. And it brings it right to the very top. So I'm going to hold down Shift and hit D as many times as I need to, as tall as this pole is going to be. Okay, and if you're not sure, you can always go more and then delete stuff. That's no big deal. So then once I had all of these, I took all those pieces and I went to Mesh Combine. That puts them together. And then I went to Edit Mesh Merge, and that will merge all the vertices together. Okay, now some kids on the street may tell you that booleans is the way to go, and it's definitely not the way to go. Never listen to anyone who tells you to booleans. It's a horrible idea. There we go. Okay, so now that I have this, I could leave it just like that, and Unreal would accept it just like this. We would get some issues. We would have to turn on double-sided because it would actually register like this as one side and this as nothing. And then our texture, whatever is here, would also be on the other side, so that could be an issue too. If we wanted something different, like the stop sign, I want the stop word here. I don't want it on the back, so I have to have thickness here. Okay. For this, I don't really need thickness, but our game is so simple, or our environment is so simple. I can simply just extrude and then give it a little bit of thickness. 0.5, that's good. Okay, so there it is. So then I would lay out the UVs for this piece. And just so you can see the process for this, because it looks like overwhelming, like holy cow, that's a crazy looking piece. But it's just like every other piece. Okay, that's what it looks like now. I'm going to just do a planar map just to flatten everything out. Then I'm going to go into my edges and just start cutting stuff. So I know the top of this is going to need to get cut. So I grab all the vertices, or all the edges on the top. Okay, and I also know that the bottom's going to get cut. And I also know that this loop here needs to get cut too, okay? So here's how I actually approach this one, is I actually grab the entire thing, select, use constraints, and if you remember from when we did the angle stuff, okay, so I set to like 69 and 120, and that should give me, I marquee this now, it should give me all the hard edges, which it does. It does all the edges that I wanted. It selects them perfectly. Close and reset. And then I can cut that. And then I can go to my shells and marquee it all, and then go to unfold. Okay, and it gives me this, and if I hit 6, you'll see that the UVs on this are laid out pretty good. Something happened to the side here, and this will happen occasionally. It's just, you know, one of the joys of Maya. Okay, now what happened to that, I don't know. But if I grab that and I say unfold, you know, maybe it'll do it. It's kind of thinking and processing here. I'm going to hit escape because I made it frozen. But what I would do in this case is I would either go back to UV and I would say planar map that again, just those faces, and then go back to unfold and see what it gets me. I may need to cut the top and bottom again because I think that those kind of reattached. Oh, another thing I didn't do is kind of freeze my transforms, which is something I definitely want to do. There we go. Okay, so let's go back to this, modify, freeze transform. Cool. Let's go back to that. We'll planar map it. And at this point, I'm not even concerned about the size of the shapes. I'm more concerned about the fact that they're all square. That's my major concern right now. Okay, and if you do all your objects in one scene, which is totally acceptable, then you don't have to recreate that shader every time. It's just the same shader every time. Unfold. There we go. 6. Alright, that one didn't work good. Why didn't you work good? I think my computer just seems to be acting weird right now. Got UV edges. Yeah, it's just acting weird. Okay, there's something going on with it. So if this is the case, and this will, like I said, happen more than one time, double check, make sure everything is frozen here. Sometimes deleting the history can definitely help. And then let's just try that again. So planar map, maybe a different direction, maybe Z this time. Nope. So there's definitely something going on there because those faces aren't getting the material. I'm sure everything has a material. There we go. I did camera based, which is kind of a different one, but it definitely seemed to work. Like everything has it now, which before they didn't. Okay, so now let's go back to our edges. Oops. Grab all of our edges for this piece. Oops, I want the length, I want the angle. I'll just marquee it. Now, if you don't reset this at the end, it'll like stay that, so you can only select those edges. So make sure you reset it. Okay, so now we go back to UV, go back to cut. Then we go back to the editor. Unfold. You'll see, perfect. Okay, so it's just a matter of making sure that all your stuff is checked correctly. So that wasn't a huge deal. Now, this piece here, obviously, this could be broken down further. It's kind of resizing all the stuff so they fit the same dimensions. So it might make sense to go into the edges here and just trying to grab like that, so that we're kind of hitting it, you know, a third of the way down. Okay, so same thing kind of here. Sure, don't grab that one. I wouldn't do anything, but okay. And then we'll cut it. And then what it's going to do is it's going to fill more of that room. So now when we go to shell and we grab this and then we unfold it again, now it's bigger. Okay, and what that means is that the texture can be finer in those areas. We can allow more detail in those areas. Now, because this has a stop sign in it, we also have to allow for that in there too. So this one is my end one. So you can see how tightly packed this is. That's pretty perfect. This one is pretty good also, right? So somehow that stop sign, if I were to grab both of these and tell it to lay itself out, making sure this is at 496, making sure this has preserved 3D ratios, making sure this says 496, 4096, my padding is 5 and 5-ish, and I lay out, then it'll kind of go through and redistribute and figure out what's the best way to make sure that these and these squares are the same. And that's exactly what we want here, okay? So you don't have to spend a lot of time modeling something in order for it to look good in that engine, okay? So my process was, for each item, I would take and I would model the stuff. I'd freeze my transforms. I would delete history. I would lay out the UVs for it. Okay, if I hit 6, you can see the UVs are laid out for all my stuff. I would export this item as an FBX, and I would bring it into Substance. And then I would go through, and let's say here's my stop sign. Perfect. There it is. So here's my stop sign. You'll notice that the word is not on here. My internet was down, so there might be a way inside of this software to get text, but I couldn't find it right away, so I'm like, well, I'll just do that in Photoshop. And because my textures for this, what's that button? There we go. Because my textures for this, I hit F3, are laid out like this, I know exactly where the stop word would go, so I can just go into Photoshop with this texture and just type the word stop right there. There we go. F2, F3. Okay, so I did my bake just like before. I baked my textures so that I could grab my stuff. I assigned materials to each one. And I added some other stuff. I added here's some worn copper on top of this, right? And some more different layers just to add some different colorations to it. For my stripes here, let me just turn these off. Let's see this. I just added a new regular layer. I went to like a frontish view. I went to, I'm on the layer, yes. I went to my brushes. And I just needed a hard brush. Where's that hard brush? Default hard. There it is. Okay. And I made sure over here that my brush shape was that, which is good. And my color, there it is. My base color was white. Actually, we should make this red first. Right. Make the entire thing red. I don't need on this specific one a height map or normal map. Okay. And the roughness in the metal, I'll pull the roughness down some, I'll pull the metal up some. Alright, so I need an overall color for this. I can hold down Control and right click and drag, and then just give this red. Oops. Okay. I'll mask that off later so it doesn't have that on there. That's cool. And then I can go with white. Shrink this down. Now to draw straight lines, you hold Control, or you click first. Let me shrink this down some more. Okay, I'm trying to get it about the size that I want. That's good. Okay, so I click first up here, like away from it. I hold Control. Sorry, I hold Shift first. Then I hold Control. There we go. And then I can click. Oops. Why aren't you painting white? Click, Shift. There it goes. It's taking a second. All right, and then I would do the same thing here. So I click here, Control Shift. Let me orient my camera. I think it doesn't like one of my options here. Tangent warp. But can't put this alignment to camera. I think that will do it. Come on. There we go. So guess it wants me to click right on the piece here and go over. And I can make that smaller too if I need to make the brush smaller to fit. There we go. And that's a little bit off, so I could also go with my eraser. Make sure I have the default hard brush. There we go. Oops. That's erasing that. So I actually would want to just paint with red. I forgot about the red. So I would go back to my color, my eyedrop, my red. Let's fill it with this red. There we go. Cool, close enough. All right, and then I can put a mask on this. Black mask. And then go to my geometry selector. Make sure it's on geometry, make sure it's on white. I just pick that piece of geometry. Okay, so now it has it just on there, not on that other piece. Okay, so that's how I drew those lines in there, and it's obviously super simple to do that. Then I made another new layer, and then I went to my hard surfaces here, and I found a screw. There we go, just type it in. And then what this is going to allow me to do is I'm not going to paint color. Well, actually, I could paint color if I wanted to. Maybe just make this like gray. I want a height map. I want a normal map. And I want my height to be a little taller like that. And my roughness a little bit higher. Should be good. Make sure I'm on my right stuff. Stencil. Gotta pick the right screw head. There we go. No. Color. No, okay. I'm clicking on the wrong thing. I know I'm doing that. Alright, that's what I did wrong. I clicked the wrong screw. So you have to type in screw here. Oops, screw there. And then make sure nothing else is clicked. Like when I go here, I click that off, and I type in screw. And I get this screw bolt, which is perfect. And then I can change the size of it. And then I can just click. And there's a bolt right there. Now it's not 3D. I can go over here to my normal map. It'll give the appearance of it without actually having, you know, the thing right there. So, too big. Okay, so when we're back here, we can definitely see that there is, you know, some screws or something holding that together, right? So then that's going to be the same for every other object we do. So here's my trash bin. Discard the changes there. Okay. Now with this is what I was talking about with having a single-sided surface. So my trash bin actually has the bag and the trash can itself are single-sided, meaning there's no thickness to them. So we're actually kind of seeing through them in here, but in Unreal we won't. So we just have to remember that in Unreal we won't see that. Okay, so this is done the same way we did Thor's hammer, same way I showed the sword, same way I showed some of the other items. Okay, same exact way. Nothing really different here. Oops. You'll see on here too, there's those screws, right? And each one of those things, again, I didn't model those, I just put them right in here. Where is my light or billboard? The light's the same thing as the other ones. Pick some materials, change some colors. It's thinking. Now, when I did the billboard, I actually had to go into Photoshop and design what I wanted the billboard to look like, and save that as a texture, and then bring that in here. And the texture has to be square in order for it to work. So I needed to know the dimensions of my billboard so that when I drew it in Photoshop, it lined up perfectly. Ish. Okay, so here's all my stuff here. You can see the texture, I mean, if I get really close to it, you can see it's really grainy, but we're not going to get close to it. We're going to be further away, so it works perfectly. Okay, now the way I did the, that's not it. There it is. It's these two, yes, those two. Okay, so the way that I did the texture on here is I went and imported my picture. So I went to import resource, add resources to my desktop, P drive, 2520, gaming props, source images, billboard ping. And I said I'm going to use this as a texture and just import it for the current session. I can actually import it for the project billboard, that way it's always there for this. And here it is. You can see there's a lot of white space inside this. When I went to my brush here, and then I went to my stencil, yes, there we go. And then if I hit S, here's where I can do my stencil zoom, stencil snap. So, oops, S, and then right mouse button, I can zoom in and out. Okay. Now it wasn't a stencil. That was a stencil, okay. Was it? No, this was a texture. There we go, projection, that's what I needed. That's what I needed. Alright, so to paint the billboard, we have to switch to this, projection. And then in the material mode, we can just drag this over here. It'll just put in base color, not material mode, base color. And now if you hold S, here's all the options. Stencil zoom is S right, so make it bigger or smaller. And I just drag up and down. And then S middle, we'll do that. So I can see, like, right from here, I make this that big, because I need to make sure it fills. I could say maybe my swords on the sides are a little bit getting cut off. So I either go into Photoshop and adjust it. You know, maybe I can bring the hammer and the Pokeball in a little bit closer. Or I just say, you know, it's good enough. Okay, and then I just paint. And it puts it on there. Okay, really sweet. I'm going to switch back to the regular brush. Alright, so now that's on this layer. Let me shrink my brush down. Now what I did was, like, the texture wasn't coming through, so I pulled it down below. Just set that there. Like that. Now the texture is coming through, so that it gives it this really neat texture look, like it was actually printed or something. It's a canvas texture that I used, but it works. Okay. Cool. So then I would just export that out and bring that back into Unreal. So now let's talk about how we can do all of this stuff, you know, maybe a little bit fancier stuff. So like this light here, I want to create a light, and I want to have, you know, a light actually in it. I want to have glowing. I want to create instances of this light so I don't have to keep updating each one. So what I do is I right click and I can do a blueprint class. Okay, and what this is basically I'm making a definition of what a light would look like all the stuff that would go with a light. I'm going to say actor, and I'll just call this one bunch of stuff underscore BP. Okay, so I go into my bunch of stuff underscore BP, and then whatever I drop inside here, that will be inside my item. Okay, so let's say that for some instances I may want a trash can, and then I may want some traffic cones around it. Okay, so there's my trash can. I drug my traffic cones in there. These might be a bit big. So let's resize this to like 0.5. That seems appropriate. This comes up a little more. Cool. And then I can just duplicate this. It's Control W. Yep, stupid duplicate key. Rotate this a little bit. There we go. And then Control W again. Okay. Alright. So I'm basically creating a definition for a new item in here that'll have all these things in here, which is awesome. So I can do this, and I can also add stuff to it. So if I go to Add Component, this is stuff that may not have been created yet, but I want to create it. So here's all my stuff. So billboard, material billboard is right there. So I've named my material for the billboard. Here's my actual billboard. Some cables, whatever else they have in here. Okay, so I can go to light. You can even type stuff in like I want a light. And then I'll say, let's take a point light. For whatever reason, there's a point light in the trash can. It's glowing. There we go, perfect. Okay, so now I just say compile, and I say save. So now I've created, where's my lots of stuff? Or a bunch of stuff, there it is. Here's a bunch of stuff. So now I've created this definition that has multiple items inside here. So now I can just take this definition and just drop this down here. And now when I hit play, here's my stuff. Now you'll see one of my cones somehow is below the ground. So I can just go and double click my bunch of stuff. Go back to the viewport. Click on this cone. Yep, somehow I moved it below the ground. Okay, maybe I can go over here. Just reset my rotations. And this should be at 3. Okay, so compile, save. And you can do other stuff too, like you can make doorways and stuff. It's really neat. Alright, so now he's not in the ground, which is awesome. Okay, so I think I still have this set up here. Where's it at? There. So right over here, there's actually like a light that's shining on me. Okay, now you really can't see it too good, but once I hit this certain spot, there's a light that turns on. Okay, and if I go over here, there's my light. And I'm just going to crank up the intensity of this, like, a lot. Just so we can obviously really see this thing happen. There we go. Glow. Okay, so this was another item that I went online. I said, how do I make a light, you know, that I can have my guy trigger, so as he walks into this area, this light comes on. And then I found out how to make a trigger box, which is what this is, and then how to make a light. I knew how to make a light, but how to use this light for the trigger box, and then how to get these two things to work together. And this is something where if I go I'm going to double click it. Where did I put that? Oh, there it is. Under blueprints, that's where it is. On actor begin overlap. There we go. So this is the event graph. So this is how stuff gets triggered. So basically what's happening is, here's my spotlight. That's just a converter. And it says that when the actor is overlapping the box, which is here, toggle the visibility of the light on. When the actor is done overlapping the box, toggle it back off. That's all it says. Really simple stuff. You know, it takes you like 2 minutes to actually do. But really cool how you can have that set up. So these lights here, we're done with that blueprint. So I made a blueprint of the lights so that I could create a light inside here. Now to get the glow of this, I created a sphere. There it is. I created a sphere inside here that's actually glowing. So there's a light that comes down and there's a sphere that glows. And then over on this side, when I did these, I did the same exact thing. I didn't need the sphere to glow, but I did need to have the each of these have their own light. So I made one light, and then I duplicated it over and over and over. And Alt and dragging will duplicate your item. Come on. So now I have 2 billboards right there. Lots of advertising money. You'll also notice that my guy kind of starts in the middle of this scene. Inside of your world, you have this guy. Where's he at? There he is. It's very slow to move around the scene, but it's doable. There he is. Okay, so here's the guy, and here's a little camera that's attached to him. That's what we're seeing. So you just move him. Wherever you want him to start, that's where you just move this thing. So he's actually, there's another world way over here. That's where he started normally. And I just moved him here just so it's easier to see what he's looking like inside my scene. So I can put him right there, hit play, and now he starts right there. Walks over here. There's a spotlight. And there's all the stuff. Okay, so whatever I wanted to, I could really create different definitions of different items that have different properties and stuff. So what I want you to do is I want you to be able to take the reins on this and just start building stuff. Okay, so start off with those 2 items, just your 2 tester items that you can build going through your game. And then I want you to start building items for this. Now you don't need to bring in the entire world, but it definitely helps so that you can kind of see everything that's in there. Especially seeing the full process of, here are, you know, my cones, here's my trash can, whatever it is. I keep this organized. I have a geometry folder and a textures folder. And in my meshes folder, or sorry, geometry and meshes. Inside my meshes is all my pieces of geometry that I brought in. So here's my billboard piece of geometry. I can double click it. There it is. The texture's on the other side. There it is. This is without any lights. Okay. And then I made a billboard blueprint. My viewport. There it is. So now I could actually take the lights here and I can have it triggered so that when someone walks up and they hit a button or something, then these lights would come on. And that would be kind of cool to show off too. I have my blend, which I don't really need. I can delete that. Don't think anything's using it. Oh, the dude? Yeah. I brought a guy in there. He doesn't need that. I'll just drop cube material on him. I have my crate. Oh, it was my crate material. You'll see that they're all done the same exact way that I showed in class. I did do some modifications of some, so like this is metallic, this is color, this is roughness, and this is normal. Didn't say anything. Under my texture, that's where I've been keeping all the other ones. I have a folder for each. So every time I export from Substance, I export to a brand new folder. Billboard, light post, stop sign, traffic cone. And then each one of these has their material in it. So if I double click, here's a trash bin. So in this one I did a little bit more to it because I wanted to adjust some of my properties. So I did do a little bit more. Don't worry about doing the extra stuff for that. Just understand the process and the concepts. Billboard, here's my billboard material. You'll see this is all the same stuff. Roughness, metallic. I did do, just to show you, I did add a multiply here. So I'm taking my ambient occlusion and I'm multiplying it times the color, which just gives the colors a little bit more darkness in some areas, and then feeding that into the base color. Anything you want to create, you just find it in here, and you just connect stuff to it. So this is the output, it goes in here, it goes in here, and then this would go into there. There we go. Okay, and that's how that would work. Then we would save it, close it. Okay, so start creating a couple other things. Now, keep the stuff I said in mind. This thing here didn't take me very long to do. Like, I'm going to say a half hour, probably didn't take me a half hour. This didn't take me a half hour to do. Maybe the whole process, but definitely not modeling it. The modeling part did not take me a half hour to do. The longest part should be kind of like you're finessing inside a substance. Okay, so I'm going to leave it at that. And let's just see what you can create.